Imagine this. You come home after a long day, drop your keys on the counter, kick off your shoes, and sink into the couch. The world is loud. Your phone won't stop buzzing, and your mind is still running at full speed. But then, you pick up your remote, click on one familiar icon, and suddenly everything feels quieter, calmer, curated, like someone opened a window to a better universe. That's the magic of Apple TV. Today, I want to take you on a journey, not just through Apple TV as a device or a streaming service, but through the world it builds, the subtle choices behind its design, the psychology of how it captures our attention, and why millions of people in the United States have found themselves drawn deeper and deeper into its ecosystem without even realizing it. And trust me, by the end of this video, you're going to see Apple TV in a way you never have before. Because Apple TV isn't just another little black box on your entertainment center. It's an entire philosophy, quiet, intentional, and unbelievably calculated. Let's begin. Picture holding an Apple TV remote. Small, minimal, almost weightless. That's not an accident. Apple doesn't want you to think about the tool in your hand. They want your attention on the screen. Every curve, every button, every click is designed to make you forget what you're touching, to make your brain believe that the content itself is what you're holding. That's the first layer of Apple's strategy. Disappear the hardware, amplify the experience. Now imagine scrolling. Not endlessly, not chaotically, just smoothly gliding through rows of movies and shows. No ads suddenly blasting in your face. No autoplay trailers screaming for attention. There's something strangely peaceful, almost luxurious about it. It's the digital equivalent of walking through a very expensive hotel lobby. Calm, slow, deliberate. And the reason is psychological. When your brain isn't fighting clutter, it opens up. It becomes more curious, more receptive, more willing to explore. This is why Apple TV feels different from any other streaming device in the US market. It's not trying to be busy, it's trying to be beautiful. But here's the most interesting part. Apple TV doesn't want to control just what you watch. It wants to control how you feel while you're watching. Let's talk about sound. If you've ever used AirPods with your Apple TV, you've noticed something strange. The audio feels richer than you expect. Voices sound closer. Effects feel layered. Apple is using personalization, tiny sound adjustments based on your ears to create emotional depth. It makes dialogue more intimate, music more immersive, suspense more intense. It pulls you in. You stop looking at your phone. You stop checking notifications. And without realizing it, Apple has your full attention. But it goes even deeper. Have you noticed how many Apple TV originals aren't just entertainment? They're emotional experiences? Shows like Ted Lasso, Severance, The Morning Show, For All Mankind, Foundation, they aren't just created to entertain. They're created to make you feel something. Apple invests more money per episode than almost any other streaming studio. Not because they want more content, but because they want memorable content. They want you to think about their shows long after the screen goes dark. Because if you feel something, you stay. And that brings us to storytelling, Apple's biggest strength. Think about how Apple TV shows begin. You don't get drowned in exposition or filler. You get mood, atmosphere, emotion. Apple wants your curiosity hooked from the first line, the first frame, the first sound. That's why so many Americans describe Apple TV shows the same way. They just feel different. But let's step outside the screen for a moment. Because Apple TV isn't only about the content you watch. It's about the ecosystem surrounding it. If you've ever used your iPhone to log in, your Apple Watch to control the playback, or your HomePod to boost the sound, you've felt it. The seamlessness. Everything connects like it was meant to be. This isn't an accident. This is Apple's long-term strategy. Control the environment, and you control the experience. Cable companies never understood this. Streaming competitors are still trying to catch up. But Apple knows that once your devices start talking to each other, you stop thinking about alternatives. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Americans love convenience. We crave simplicity. We want things that just work. Apple's approach is built exactly around that psychology. You plug in, and that's it. You're done. No complicated menus. No setup headaches. No hidden tricky. And the moment you start watching, you notice something else: the quality. Apple TV streams in higher bit rates than most competitors. That means clearer images, smoother motion, richer colors. If you've ever watched a dark scene on another streaming platform and seen weird, grainy blotches everywhere, and then watched the same genre on Apple TV and felt like you're actually there, that's the difference. Apple doesn't just want to show you a scene. They want you to fall into the scene. Now, let's talk about something subtle, something you might have never noticed consciously. The Apple TV interface uses a specific visual rhythm. Spacing is intentional. Motion is slow and natural. Your eyes get time to breathe. Your mind gets time to process. It lowers anxiety. It reduces mental overload. It creates comfort, and comfort keeps people watching. Speaking of watching, let's talk about choice. Americans today are overwhelmed with content. We have more shows than we can possibly keep track of, and most platforms bombard you with so much that you end up watching nothing. But Apple TV is curated, slow, selective. It doesn't overwhelm. It whispers, "Here's something meaningful," and people respond. Now you might be wondering, what's Apple's endgame? Why put so much effort into something that looks so simple? Because simple is the hardest thing in the world to build. And Apple knows that if they can make their entertainment ecosystem feel effortless, people will stay inside it. They'll buy Apple devices. They'll subscribe to Apple services. They'll become part of a world where everything feels smooth, elegant, intentional. Apple TV is just a doorway. But here's the twist. Apple TV isn't actually about TV at all. Not really. It's about time. Your attention, your focus. In the modern world, our attention is the most valuable currency. Companies fight for it. They bombard us with ads, autoplay videos, clickbait thumbnails. But Apple doesn't fight. Apple waits. They create a space calm enough that your attention flows naturally toward it. They create content rich enough that you want to stay. They create experiences smooth enough that you never want to leave. And that's why Apple TV has quietly become one of the most beloved platforms in the US, even if it doesn't scream for attention. Because sometimes the quietest voice in the room is the one we listen to. And now imagine this. It's a Friday night. Lights dim. The screen glows softly. You curl up under a blanket. You press play. And suddenly, you're in a different world. A better world. A world crafted with intention, precision, and emotion. That's the promise of Apple TV. Not chaos, not clutter, not noise, but an escape. A place where the stories matter, where the visuals feel alive, where sound becomes immersive, where the technology disappears, and all that's left is the experience. So the next time you open Apple TV, take a moment. Notice the calmness. Notice the clarity. Notice how everything feels premium. Not because it's expensive, but because it's thoughtfully built. And as the episodes roll, the night deepens and reality fades away, you'll realize something simple but profound. Apple didn't just build a streaming platform. They built a feeling of quality, a feeling of comfort, a feeling of home. And that's why millions of people keep coming back. Because in a loud world, Apple TV offers quiet magic. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what we're all searching for. But let's step back for a moment. Think about the simple act of choosing what to watch. On most streaming services, the choice is overwhelming. Thousands of titles, endless scrolling, recommendations that feel random. Our brains get tired before the show even begins. We abandon decision-making altogether. Apple TV approaches this differently. It understands human psychology. It doesn't bombard you with options. Instead, it guides you subtly, highlighting a few curated shows, showcasing the originals, giving you a sense of discovery without stress. And that tiny difference, less choice, more curation, is what keeps viewers engaged. It feels effortless, almost intuitive. You don't just watch, you explore. And exploration. En mythos. Humans are wired to seek out stories. Stories that make us think, feel, and connect. Apple TV invests billions into creating narratives that resonate deeply. Take Severance, for example, a show that starts quietly, almost subtly, but gradually wraps itself around your mind leaving you thinking about it long after the screen goes dark. This is the kind of storytelling Apple TV thrives on. Slow, intentional, gripping. Apple TV also understands the power of emotion. It knows that humans remember feelings, not facts. Every cinematic choice, the lighting, the pacing, the sound design, is made to evoke emotion. That's why a quiet dialogue scene can hit harder than a blockbuster explosion on another platform. Apple TV isn't chasing attention with spectacle. It's crafting moments that linger. And speaking of lingering, the way Apple TV integrates into our homes is another stroke of genius. It's not just a device, it's part of the ecosystem. You can start watching on your TV, continue on your iPad, control it with your iPhone, or even pause with your Apple Watch. Every interaction feels seamless, natural. There's no friction, no frustration, just continuity. That continuity matters more than you think. It reinforces habit. It reinforces loyalty. When using Apple TV feels this effortless, leaving it, even for a competitor, feels inconvenient. Our brains naturally cling to what's easy, pleasurable, and intuitive. Apple TV exploits that subtly and brilliantly. Now let's consider the visuals. Apple TV isn't just about delivering HD content. It's about delivering cinematic experiences. Dolby Vision, 4K resolution, high dynamic range, all designed to immerse you. The difference is profound. A sunset scene isn't just a backdrop, it's a sensory experience. Colors pop, shadows deepen, textures feel real. You don't just watch, you feel the scene. And the audio complements this perfectly. Spatial audio, dynamic range, immersive soundscapes, they don't just add realism, they amplify emotion. A quiet whisper can feel like it's happening next to you. A distant explosion can make your heart race. Every choice is deliberate. Every decision is designed to draw you deeper. But Apple TV's impact goes beyond the senses. It has transformed how Americans consume media. The platform emphasizes quality over quantity. Unlike competitors that churn out endless content, Apple focuses on fewer, meticulously crafted shows. The result: viewers are more likely to finish shows, discuss them, and remember them. Apple isn't about binging indiscriminately. It's about meaningful engagement. And this strategy has cultural ripple effects. Think about how Ted Lasso sparked conversations across workplaces, coffee shops, and social media. Its positivity, humor, and humanity touched millions. Apple TV originals don't just entertain. They influence culture, shape discourse, and even shift values subtly. That's power. Quiet power, but immense. Apple TV also understands the power of nostalgia. Shows like For All Mankind reimagine history, combining familiar historical touchpoints with speculative fiction. They make you reflect on the past while imagining the future. The emotional tug isn't accidental. It's carefully designed to make you invest mentally and emotionally. Now consider the concept of flow. Flow is that state where time disappears and you're fully immersed in an activity. Apple TV engineers their platform, content, and ecosystem to maximize flow. From seamless navigation to emotionally gripping narratives, everything is optimized so your mind can slip into complete absorption. That's why you can start an episode and suddenly realize hours have passed without noticing. And it's not just TV shows. Movies on Apple TV follow the same philosophy. Big-name films, hidden gems, and even independent features. They're all curated, carefully displayed, and presented with cinematic clarity. The attention to detail in color grading, audio mixing, and visual effects ensures that every frame is a small masterpiece.